Thank you very much, Dean. It was good hearing you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the last session of the day. And I know since morning, there's a lot that has been talked about and a lot that has been, and I'm sure that at the end of the day, there must have been some kind of a learning that must have really taken place. Let me start with what just now we were hearing from the Dean of Michigan School, the Ross Business School, that one of the assumptions that each one of us have when we go into the classroom is that the student learns in the classroom from the teacher. Now, that kind of an assumption, that kind of a part that many of us hold, perhaps is not valid. Today, the student comes with a lot of experiences, particularly if we were to look at the new emerging model of learning which is coming up and a new model of education which is emerging. And soon this is going to be a far more dominant kind of a model than the one that we have seen until now. Until now, what we have seen is typically that after the school, the student straight away comes into the undergraduate program, that is 12 plus 3, and then comes into the postgraduate program. So therefore, almost about 17 or 18 years of his life, the student in the secondary education, in the higher education, secondary and higher education, he's really doing nothing but learning. And then the work starts. What I would imagine, and what has typically been happening now, is that 12, work, come back again for the undergraduate program, go back to work, come back for the postgraduate program, go back to the work, again come back to the university or to the school for another kind of a degree. So as a result of which, what has typically been happening and what would be happening is a far greater degree of an integration of what is happening in the classroom and what is happening in the workplace. Now, if this is going to be the kind of a new model where we are talking about it, then the question that would obviously come back to us is the curriculum that we are doing and the pedagogy that we are using, is it really the right kind of a pedagogy? The Dean just mentioned about the action-based learning as one of the kind of a suggested pedagogic changes that they have worked on. And I think it's not something very new to many of us in management schools. In the last session, where we were having the presentations from various schools, we heard about the social immersion programs of IFIM and also of NMIMS, my own school itself, my own university and my own business school. We've also learned about a couple of other kind of field-based experiences that are today very common in many of the management schools. Now, all this action-based learning that is coming up today in the classroom invariably makes the student a far more informed and a far better kind of a learner than what typically we have been talking about it. And that's where I start the session, that is really the case methodology. In today's time, the best kind of a methodology. Is simulation the best methodology or the most relevant methodology available to us? Or what else can we really do? Now, just before we were starting off with this session, and during the lunch, I was talking to my panelists, my colleagues over here. A question that very rightly Dr. Saurabh Mukherjee asked me, why are we talking about this topic today? Certainly. Is it something new? What is such a great kind of a change? No. I think it's a fundamental aspect of management education that we got to really talk about creativity. We have to talk about innovations. And therefore, from that kind of a perspective, various kinds of methodologies have been used by various institutions itself. But what is the big change? And the big change is that today, as we just heard from the dean there, that the technology today has today made the workplace a different kind of a workplace. It's no more the same. As an example, we do see the routine kind of jobs no more now existing. And the machine has taken over those kinds of routine jobs. But then it's a non-routine jobs. It's a decision-making kind of jobs. It's a job that requires the judgmental skills. That are the kind of jobs that have today grown over a period of time. And in the times to come, that is what is really going to be happening around. Now the question is that when we are talking about decision making and we are talking about judgmental skills, the imperative is the graduate or the student whom we are developing for the industry or for the social sector or for any kind of a workplace that we are talking about it, are they able to think out of the box? Are they able to come out with some creative solutions or not? We have seen in the recent past that all those kinds of business models that have challenged the existing models of business have succeeded. We heard about Uber. We all know about Uber. We have seen in our own country Ola as an example, which was incubated at IIT Bombay, and which is today one of the kind of a grand success. We see Zomato as an example. Also, we see a lot of other kinds of business models which have challenged the existing models of doing business, existing models of work. That is rewarded. Whereas the models that have talked about compliances, if you were to just go by whatever is really happening around and you follow the same, you really don't succeed. So I ask many a time a question myself when I teach a course in marketing. What is new that I should be doing? Is it not that we have been doing the cases? Is there something that I can learn today from other disciplines itself? Can I learn something from the field of arts, from the field of social sciences? How do I bring some of the kind of learnings from sociology or history or anthropology, or for that matter, fine arts and performing arts in the MBA program? And I must say that many schools have experimented with that, and they have been fairly successful. At that point of time, maybe the student doesn't see the value in it. But it is after the experience, and when they go into the industry, they realize the kind of a significance of that particular exercise. Whether this is that of the theater, as an example, which was talked about from PSG and from another college in Bangalore, or it is, for that matter, let us say, a dialogue with the performers, say the musicians, of an appreciation of music, for example, or where we have often done, as an example, in a perception exercise, an exercise on an old woman and young woman kind of a thing, and a very, very common kind of an exercise. Or where we have been, or in marketing, when we have done something in the area of focus group discussions, and we've asked the respondents, for example, to write a story on a particular brand, and that tells us about their own kind of perceptions, which has led us towards thinking about the brand in an entirely different kind of a manner itself. So the various kinds of things that we can learn from various other disciplines today is important, and how do we really use some of those kinds of approaches in the management program. Well, I promised to my panelists that I'm going to speak the least, and unfortunately I was taking a little bit more time. I was telling them the best thing to ever happen is to be the chair of the last session, when you can really enjoy what others are saying. And much more when I have a very distinguished panel over here with me, Dr. Maitri, who's a very dear colleague of mine, whom I had known for a long time, currently heads the I am Trichy, and much more than that, he's the one who has really come up with some of the brilliant, outstanding kind of recommendations on a model curriculum in MBA. I have Ashish, comes with a good engineering kind of a background. Once again, Saurav, who comes with a engineering and a management kind of a background. Dan, who brings in a whole lot of an international and an AACSB kind of an accreditation experience. And I have with me the director of the TAPME, Dr. Madhu Veeraraghavan, who brings to us also some of the international experiences. So with all that, I think I'll reserve some of my final comments towards the end. What we would be doing is that each speaker, each panelist would take about 10 minutes to make their comments. And what I intend to do is, based on what they are speaking, I'm going to jot down a couple of issues, and I'm going to flag with them with those issues, okay? And after that, we will open it up to the entire audience so that they can ask them a lot more questions than what I would be doing it. And then finally, I'm going to sum it up, the whole session. So I'm going to start with you, Dan, because I saw your presentation in the morning, and as I saw it early in the morning, his presentation, the only thing that I looked at it and I sent back a message to him, is it all? And he said, yes. And then I was just thinking about it. So what it did was, by that kind of a short kind of a PowerPoint presentation that he sent to me early in the morning, is to force me to think in a much more creative manner and force me to think on some of the kind of slides that he was wanting to talk about. Dan, all yours. 10 minutes.